Thank you, Omobala, for having me.
Well, we know that there's this popular saying that when you want to hide an information from a black man, hide it in the book. I know that over time that narrative is gradually changing, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on where we are today.
Actually, thank you very much for that narrative. It has not changed. It still remains the same. I will start by telling you that if the narrative can change, it means that Nigerians should stop writing. But from our own statistics in the National Library, as the bibliographic center of this country, we discovered that Nigerians are highly prolific. So they are documenting the history of this country in various perspectives. Currently, within 1 year, we have gotten 26,000 requests for international standard book number as a bibliographic center. That is to tell you that we are writing. So the narrative of hiding things, when you want to hide information, you don't need to hide it in a book. It's still, you must hide, it's still there because the history, everything about this country is documented. But unfortunately, they are not being preserved and they are not being read, which is the mandate of the National Library.
Very good, Professor Anunobi. I'm glad you touched on the issue of preservation of this research, as it were. But lately, you can get a lot of information on the internet, and of course, social media is also having its impact every now and then. So is that relegating the traditional role libraries play since inception, you think?
Yes, except it's only in Nigeria. Every country prides its library in diverse form. I want to start by telling you that every system has a way of renewing itself. Any system that cannot renew, cannot refresh, cannot regenerate, will die. The same thing with the library. When you are talking about that transformation from the print to the electronic, the global north is doing it and doing it effectively. But in this part of the country, this part of the world, that is the global south, precisely Nigeria, people are relegating the library to the background instead of transforming it to the new dynamics or trajectories that people are looking out to make use of, like getting it to the electronic format. I want to tell you that my heart bleeds that many government officials are demolishing libraries. I can count 3 states that are demolishing libraries and putting, they call it e-library. What is e-library? That is what you have to say, you have to know. But in other countries, because of the Gen Z who are interested in electronic format, the countries are helping, aiding their libraries to transform from the print to electronic. By the way, the National Library is different because the National Library is on its level. It is not about reading now. It is not about walking into the library to read. It is about heritage. It is about preservation. It is about bibliographic center. It is about promoting reading. And it is about research. And research may not be what you have today. It could be what you have in the 1960s, in the 1970s. So people are still looking for them. And if you are talking about people migrating from the print to the electronic, who is going to put the history of this country, the heritage of this country in electronic form? Ab initio, they are not born digital. So somebody has to do it, and nobody is doing it. So you cannot just catapult into the electronic world without doing something, and nobody is doing it. And the research is suffering in this part of the world. I want to mention something. When you open any well-researched material to read, you see that when they are citing literature or historical information, governance, politics about Nigeria, they will say source, British Library, source, Library of Congress. What is that telling you? It's telling you that we are not preserving our own history. And it's getting worse because in the early days of our independence, government officials, government agencies, ministries are presenting, are depositing all these resources for the National Library to preserve. But presently, everybody is abandoning it. And I want to ask you a question. I want to ask some more. For you to prepare for this year program, do you just read social media? No. For you to be a scholar, you must have to read a document, a book, page to page. I always listen to your morning show. And I know that people who present their morning show, they read books, irrespective of the format. And somebody will be looking for something that was written in 1960, published in 1960, and is there talked out. If it is well preserved, it should be in the National Library, if it is deposited. If it is not preserved, nobody will see it, but it is only when we see it, and we have the capacity, the financial capacity, that we translate it, transform it in a manner that the new generation will have it, and even AI, which is an infrastructure, we read and articulate it.
Well, it looks like a vicious cycle, because when we talk about the culture of reading or the culture of writing, they are both related. But when you talk about the culture of reading, it has to start from somewhere. And when our children go to schools, the curriculum should begin to imbibe that culture of reading in them. What would you say about the current school curriculum, about imbibing the culture of reading in students and also helping them to understand the importance of going to the library and getting information aside just relying on what they get on the social media?
Yes, thank you for presenting that. Since I assumed office, this has been a fight I have been engaging in. That you parents, in the 80s, in the 90s, even in the 2000s, children, students are encouraged to read, go to the library, not to depend solely on what is taught in the class. And I want to tell you, a country like Ireland, they have achieved 95% literacy because they inculcate the culture of reading so that in their curriculum there is emphasis on reading. But in this country, we are talking about literacy. We are talking about children going to school, except in the private school. That's where you can find an element of school library, which is the one we've been trying to fight. Other public libraries, other public schools, they do not have libraries. And I remember there was library hour when I was in school, when students, pupils are encouraged to go to the library. And in some university staff schools, they have corners. They have library corner where children can have books and play with it. If you tell me that your children are reading in electronic format, what about our curriculum? Is it electronic format based? If it is not, if they are still turning books, if they are still turning prints, why are you saying that their children, they don't need books? It is something that is actually, it's a very serious problem in this country, because I know that going beyond the shores of this country, they are planting libraries, small libraries here and there, so that people will have opportunity to pick books and read. And we are not thinking about that. If we feel that the need now is that children should read electronically, provide them with the devices, provide them with smart facilities, put it in the schools, and provide time for them to read. Because if you don't read effectively, you will not be able to do a very strong, logical, chronological narrative. I'm able to say it, because that's why children are not writing very good comprehension, very good essay. You are looking at social media, you pick information and go. Some of them fake, some of them misinformation, but the text, whether in I'm not advocating for only the print. I'm advocating for both print and The school, government should address it. And when you are talking about literacy, you cannot achieve literacy except when you are achieving that people are reading.
All right.
And that is to say that there should be libraries.
Indeed,
yes.
Indeed, Professor Anunobi. But I'd like you to go back to the issue of artificial intelligence here. Do you think this is destroying or helping research in the true terms? Because how do we differentiate between facts and fiction. Okay, and you also have to do research to be able to do that as well. You also mentioned the issue of writing, as it were. We've seen scenarios where AI, also aids in that respect. But how do we come to real terms with the possibility of this innovation sticking with us for a long time, and of course the place of the library in this regard? And can we coexist with the issue of the e-library scenario as well, you think?
Yes. I started by telling you that if we are talking about technology, AI, it's an infrastructure. It's an infrastructure. When you don't have, I am glad because I told them yesterday, I was 3 years in office yesterday. Today, I'm 3 years in office today. But yesterday, I had to brief the media, and I told them that Nigerian history, the narrative of this country is missing. If AI is capturing, gathering, answering questions, AI will only answer questions based on information available for it to use. It doesn't manufacture knowledge. It can only crawl when you are carrying out research and then you ask AI question. I have used it. I'll ask question and it will give me a response and I will go to confirm. But that is, at times it will give you links. It will give you links, authenticate and relevant and reliable links. Now, if you don't have all those, if you don't have Nigerian perspective there, nobody will write anything based on the Nigerian history. Now, in the issue of library, that's what I say, that every system must transform, every system must regenerate, every system must refresh. It is not, if their system does not refresh or transform, it will get atrophy. That is, it will die. Now, if the library of tomorrow, today and tomorrow, we are moving towards electronic, we really need to provide the facilities, provide infrastructure. Not to say that there is, library is not, library could be in electronic form. And by the way, that's the difference between what you call the e-library. I don't know what some state governments are demolishing libraries, saying that they are putting internet. Internet is even adding misinformation, because till today, the global north, they are still depending on libraries to get subscribe relevant and reliable databases, which people will rely on. You cannot tell me that if you are doing a research on health or medicine, and you go online, anything you see there, because I can write. So the issue of AI, the issue of e-library, the issue of print, they will still live hand in hand. They will still exist hand in hand. If it is not, if it's so, I'm waiting for government. I'm waiting for Nigerian government to say, oh no, certification, subpoena should be only electronic. But the print, I say, the newspapers this day is there. Guardian is there in print, in as much as they are producing in electronic. They're still producing in print, because if you come to the National Library, we are not using electronic to certify the document you are going to take for litigation. And that takes me to the level of, because I have to say that I weep for this country. The National Library, I said earlier, is not about walking in to read and walk away. It is research. It is for litigation. It is for history. It's a heritage. I was thinking that it is the lawyers that will be seeking for us. When you go to the National Library, Lagos, I asked you to take a trip to that place. You see that our newspapers, 60s, which are still being used for litigation these days, they are deteriorating. And nobody is asking us. We are looking for space. I want to go and begin to seek for space in agencies until government says, oh, National Library, begin to acquire e-newspapers. The e-resources will be the one that will be tendered in the court. Then I will stop storing. So the point I'm trying to make is that the heritage still remains. Because Library of Congress, by the end of this month, we are going to meet directors of national libraries all over the world to discuss.
All right, we would look forward to that. We'll look forward to that meeting, and hopefully the culture of reading and writing will be resuscitated in Nigeria. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation, Professor Chinwe Anunobi, librarian and CEO of the National Library of Nigeria.